Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to look at my 2012 Ducati 1200cc Ducati Diavel. This thing is a crazy bike. This is probably one of the most powerful bikes I've ever had. More powerful, crazier than the VMAX, if you can believe it. It's not perfect. It's been stored outside. It's been ridden. It's got 34,000 miles now. And when I first got this, I bought it from Francesca. She commuted it all the way from Frederick to DC on a Ducati Diavel, but surprisingly enough, Ducati Diavels are good bikes for everyday riding, even though they have 162 horsepower. And it feels like 162 horsepower. Today in this video, I'm going to show you the bike, and then we're going to take it for a ride and see how she rides. Let's get started. In the rear wheel, this is a massive tire, massive. The largest tire I've had on any bike. This is a 240/17. It handles pretty well, but it's slow turning. At speed, it handles really well. It's also a very expensive tire, so keep that in mind. Single-sided swing arm, very Ducati. You need a large tool to adjust the tire, remove the tire. The aftermarket exhaust is also unique sounding. That's the amazing thing about Ducatis, is that aesthetically they're beautiful, and then they also make a great sound that doesn't exist in a lot of bikes. It's a very unique motorcycle sound. On the Diavel, you have the lift and ride signal, which are also the brake lights. It retracts out because this is the grab rail for your passenger. I'm not exactly sure why anybody would go on this bike as a passenger. It's kind of crazy. One-piece seat. I wonder if this was cut. It's been repaired before right here. And there's a tear on this side of the seat. Left side, I have a slight little leak there, but it's like barely noticeable. Not enough for me to pull out that gasket and really fix it. I probably will in the future, but for right now, I'm riding it like that. The battery is right in here. I do appreciate that they put this very low to the ground, keeping all the weight very low. This is a V-twin. It's actually not a V-twin. I think it's called an L-twin by Ducati. That's why it makes such a interesting sound. The radiator is right here. You have the signals integrated into the plastic. Upside down forks, Brembo brakes. The front brakes are really good. And super large front rotors, dual rotors in the front, 17-inch front wheel. It's a pretty massive front wheel as well. The interesting thing too is it feels like it's got a very long wheelbase. The rake of the fork comes out quite a bit. That's why it's so hard to steer in slow speeds. You have quite a bit that you're working with. A Ducati is a work of art. And first of all, it's a work of art. It's not really a utility bike, but people do use this as a commuting bike. They'll put side cases and everything. Look at that exhaust, that heather. Beautiful looking. There's something about Ducati. They just make things so elegant. That's one of the cylinder heads there. The other one like pokes right at your crotch. It doesn't get very hot. I have taken this in some bumper-to-bumper traffic, and it gets a little hot, but not much. Surprisingly nimble, surprisingly cool to ride. And it does have that je ne sais quoi of Italian engineering. Ducati Testa Tretta, and of course you have a sight glass there. You have your oil filler. You have a valve here, and people just remove the wire. The previous owner did that. That way the valve is always open, but it's easy enough to close and put that in there. Notice that the frames on these Ducatis are really interesting. The frame holds the engine up. There's no frame at the bottom like many motorcycles, many Japanese bikes. So this is a cool style because it lets the engine be exposed and you can look at it. A lot of bikes hide the engine, but Ducati tends to show that off because it is a beautiful engine. And people get enamored by the style of Ducati. And I think this bike is just pure style. It's such a brute. Is so interesting. A 1200cc engine, even with 30,000 miles, is not much. This is all metal. Underneath this metal plate, metal gas tank, is the actual gas tank, and that's made out of plastic. First got this bike, this is my first Ducati. So when I first got it, it had a bunch of electrical issues. And I was wondering why. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And surprisingly enough, it was nothing to do with Ducati's electrics that I heard so much about. What it was two fuses that were blown, but visually they looked absolutely fine. And after I fixed that, the bike's blinkers and everything worked great. Now, the downside of this particular Ducati Diavel is a common thing that happens on Ducatis. The keyless ignition stops working. And it's a fix. You have to go to Ducati, replace the antenna. But what a lot of users from Ducati, what they just do is use a PIN code and get the bike to work. That way you can make your own PIN code. It's a lot easier than having to replace the keyless system again. Look at the Ducati here. It's a little dusty, but you have a lower computer and then you have an upper computer. These are absolutely tiny. This is where the speed is. This is where your indicators are. And this one, it's got the modes. So this bike has got 3 different modes so you don't kill yourself that easy. You have a urban mode, which limits it to about 100 horsepower. Then you have a touring mode that gives you a different style of 162 horsepower. And then you have sport mode, which is all out, full out horsepower. This is a little strange to use because if you're used to Japanese bikes, they're oriented a little bit differently. This is your turn signal. This is your cancel, your horn. And then here you have 2 buttons, up and down, for your trip, for resetting various things. And then on here, you have a passing button, and then push down to turn on your high beam, push down again to remove the high beam. Interesting is that when you turn left, for example, you have it blinking, you go into cancel, but for some reason it goes into ride modes if you hold it just for a little bit too long. That's how you select the modes. You push it in, you hold it a little bit, and then if you want to select the mode, you push in and you select it again. Here's another weird thing about Ducati that I thought at first would be odd. You have this horn button, but it's really close to your blinkers. So as you're reaching for any button down here, you tend to hit it. So I haven't had that. It's actually a brilliant setup. I do like it because one thing that Honda's been doing is they've been replacing the blinkers with the horn, but you use the blinkers much more often than the horn. So this is actually a very intuitive way of doing it. This is your throttle, front brake, and then you have your kill switch, very unique to this particular bike. I've never seen this sort of system. Another thing to note is that this bike requires premium, and premium costs about $4 something. The range on it is also surprisingly low. So you are filling up every 110 miles. So to start the bike, because of the ignition system on this has gone bad, you would have to replace the antenna, but that's a very costly thing, especially for a Ducati. So what people do, they put in a PIN code. There's a button right here, you push it down, and the bike will come alive. And then you put your PIN code, there's the bike coming alive, a little animation, and you put your PIN code at the bottom here. So this is the lower screen, and then you can push it, riding mode, and you can go into other various modes, urban, sport, so let push and hold sport. You have to close the throttle in order for it to work, and it says here 162 high, sport, and it's in neutral, DTC off, traction control, ring, push and hold it, 162 horsepower low, and if I wanted to go into urban mode, that's the weakest mode, 100 horsepower, urban, traction control, everything there. Fuel consumption, 27 miles to the gallon, 34,000 miles. Dummy lights, so now start the bike. The engine sounds amazing. This is what a Ducati Diavel sounds like. Oh my God! Alright guys, it is time to take out the Diavel out for a spin and see how she rides. Sitting position is kind of strange on it, but you kind of get used to it. So this one, you have a button here, you push it, and then you push your pin code because the keyless ignition system does not work. You still need a key to access the gas cap and the rear seat. So if you ever want to fill it up, you're going to need it. Alright, and now to start it. Really amazing. Now I have to fix this. It moves around a little. Put the kickstand. This one is on urban mode. We'll try out urban mode for a little bit and then we'll get going with a little bit more speed. But the riding position, that's the part that it takes a while to kind of get used to. And because of the loud exhaust and the aggressive tone, it's a magnet for police. When you're riding, I mean look, I'm going 35, 36. It's very difficult to keep it at that speed, especially when it sounds this good. And I'm still in urban mode. You know, this bike could be ridden slow and it still feels fun. But I mean, this is really what it's meant to. It's crazy. And like you can fly off of these little hills. You know, I have a hard time understanding the need for 160 horsepower. It's crazy. It's like a shotgun. You know, for something so big, it handles well. You know, it's kind of like the Honda ST1300. You think, oh yeah, it's super fast, smooth, weighs 700 pounds, and you think that it doesn't go around corners well, and then you go around corners fine. Yeah, this thing is just so tractable. This is the reason people love the V-twins, even though this is like an L-twin, 90-degree V-twin, whatever. It's the way it makes torque that makes it so nice to ride on the street. And a 1200cc is effortless. I mean, I'm riding in 5th gear. It feels like it's an automatic. This type of bike though, the seating position is so different that it takes some time to get used to before you start to ride smoother. A lot of people, when they like see me ride, it's like, oh, you're going too slow. You know, it doesn't feel like it's going slow. And I'm still above the speed limit. You know, that's the reason like small bikes are so good. You can go fast on them and you're still going slow. Also, the V-twin on this, the L-twin, is pretty narrow compared to other bikes out there. When you ride an inline 4, they tend to be wider because, you know, the cylinders are all stacked. You know, like you get a Concours 1400, it's wide, but Ducatis are svelte, they're thin. This thing does go into corners a whole lot slower than I'm not used to it. And also the rear tire makes riding around corners like very stable, but it's like slower turning. What I need is like a good day of solid cornering on it. We are in sport mode. It's got a lot of engine braking, but it's like you really have to be careful. Just the amount of power. Hey, get in your lane there, Tesla. Jeez. It's like a shotgun. Wow, this thing is like a kick. It is an insane kick. I'm telling you, you go from a boring bike to this. This is so exciting. This particular road is bumpy, so I usually go through here when I want to test bikes to see how they do when they are, how their suspension works. It might not seem like it's bumpy, but it is. It's also popular for cyclists, so you have to be careful. But when I rode this bike on the Beltway, the suspension is so hard on it. But the great thing about Ducatis is you're paying for the Ducati name, and it usually comes with very good suspension. The front and rear are absolutely adjustable. This is what a Ducati Diavel sounds like. Oh my God! Holy moly, that's so insane. The power of this thing, so crazy. It's got such a kick. The power delivery is also smoother than the V-Max. I'm in 5th gear. It's actually kind of high, but oh wow, this thing is so crazy. Look, you just twist the throttle a bit. Pretty stable. Dude, that is crazy. Even riding slow, this thing is fun. Oh my God, now that was a terrible thing. Oh my God, that was crazy. I hit a ripple, and this thing is just so tight in the front, so tight. And I had one hand on the handlebars, and this thing is just kind of flew. You see like all these little ripples? It doesn't feel great. These secondary roads, man, they're so bumpy on this bike. You know, another thing about this bike is that it's a very inefficient bike when it comes to gas. I know that you shouldn't get this for the gas mileage, but it's ridiculous. Look at that, it's already... By the way, Ducati didn't even give you a gas gauge. They just give you a gas light when it's time to fill up. You basically just gotta fill up, and it starts to count up. So I've done 1.7, 1.8 miles since hitting the reserve. And this bike uses premium, so it gets a little bit more expensive. And that's the Ducati Diavel, a very unique bike for people who are more into the style of bikes than anything else. This is not a utility-driven bike. This is not a bike that you ride if you're saving money on gas, but it is a unique bike, very interesting. It's the type of bike that you want to take into a Bikes and Coffee and show it off. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.